Welcome to this episode of Orthodontics in Interview. It's an absolute pleasure, Björn, to have you here in your office in Traben-Trøbæk a day before the Ortho 50. Really looking forward to hearing your course tomorrow. And really, this is the first podcast I've done with the actual speaker in person, but really to capture what has been 2 decades of commitments, both in clinical practice, in academics, and to our community. So thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you for taking the effort or making the effort to come to me. That's amazing.
It's really an honor. So everybody knows Björn Ludwig, but I am going to go over some of the formalities of introducing you, and I'll get into asking some questions. Things that have percolated through my mind and I really wanted to pose towards you. So this is a highlight for me as a podcaster in orthodontics, amateur at that. So you're based here in a small village of Traben-Trøbæk, which is incredibly beautiful. You are also an assistant professor at the University of Hamburg, Department of Orthodontics, based over in Seoul and in Sweden as well. You've written 3 textbooks. Kieferorthopädie, up to date in 2023, a textbook on mini implants as well. You've published over 200 peer-review publications, an incredible output for any single orthodontist. Congratulations. Editor-in-Chief of Quintessence publication Kieferorthopädie, which you've been for 10 years. You're co-editor of the Journal of Clinical Orthodontics, German Board of Orthodontists, past president of the European Beg Society. There are no accolades and achievements that you haven't done in your career. Completed a PhD back in Germany. You've also been this crossover between conventional institutional research and also your access to the orthodontic community through your Facebook group. So Kieferorthopädie has 6.6 thousand followers, and the statistics are incredible as to what you deliver. On a weekly basis, you'll go through looking at articles on a Monday, Tuesday quizzes, Wednesday clinical, Thursday digital files, and you are relentless in producing that content. And it's always something that I refer to in 5 points. So the first question I want to ask you really is about the quality of orthodontics. Now, I've heard you've mentioned this a few times, and I really want to go down as to why. So if I can just put the quotation forwards to you, we do not treat cases better than before. Cases are not treated better than in the 90s, even worse. And we somehow were more effective. My question to you is, did we reach the peak of orthodontic clinical practice in the 90s? And actually, is everything else we've seen since then innovations that haven't actually developed our profession?
Actually, that quote came when I started to, I was in the process to get an active member in the Angle Society of Europe. And then what is quite nice here, you have many different ages of orthodontics being there, delivering beautiful cases. Also like senior members still joining and from time to time bringing a case. And then I was allowed to see cases being finished and debonded or being in retention in the 80s and in the 90s. And I was speechless because I thought, I'm young, I'm super strong, I have all the entrance to high-end, high-tech orthodontics, and so I must be better. And they treated it with headgear activators, serial extraction, and then I looked at the case and I thought, wow, that's really good what they do. They had super level marginal ridges. It looked so perfect. And that made me think, because I thought if I step into high-tech, into everything that equals, my cases are getting better. And that was a real eye-opener. And I think maybe we did not reach the peak of orthodontics in the 90s, but at that time technology was quite limited. Fixed appliances was more or less new all over the world, in Europe and so on. And people focused very strongly on treatment planning and diagnostics. And they had to really think and to work hard to finish their cases. And I feel our generation, I was immediately born into high-tech. We focus so much on the technology which can approve, and I did for many years, and maybe we neglect a bit the diagnostics and so on. So I think more or less maybe the quality remained the same. At a certain point, maybe even declined a bit because we were distracted from the high tech and all the technology.
What I want to follow up on in terms of that question is that how do we write that? How do we take the best of what was previous in today's current digital practice? So we do actually produce better outcomes. Do you think it's possible to do that?
I think it's possible. Then we could produce better outcomes. or different outcomes, maybe a bit quicker, maybe with less deviations, more the straight line, because we have TADs, we have entrance to 3D, CBCTs and so on. Digital planning, we can do better simulations and so on, but we have to combine both. Being able to use this technology and our what we have entrance to our benefit and the patient's benefit, use it as auxiliaries. But on other hand, we have to get humbled, read the old studies, having meetings where many generations maybe meet and listen to each other. You know, as a younger one, I tended to say, oh, he's 60, he's almost retired, what can he teach me? And maybe the older ones, they are not patient enough with us, younger ones at that time, and now you, to give us a chance. And I think this generation, we call it in Germany, generational contract, that we listen to each other and accept our unique competence in which age we are. I think that is super, super important to then at the end have an evolution in orthodontics to really get better.
I'm going to ask you, as somebody who has branched both realms in terms of academia and clinical practice, there's a statement that you made that really drew my interest, and that was, do we trust only high-level evidence or the instincts of the experienced clinician? So this kind of, are you just high randomized controlled trials and quality studies, or are you a clinician who looks at his cases? Now, can I ask you just to explain that statement? How do you decide between those two?
Yeah, it came a bit, you know, Dirk Wiesman, the win-lingual guy, he once gave a beautiful lecture about the 1 in a million case and the 1 in a million orthodontist. And that really reflected a lot to me. There are these 1 in a million orthodontists, let's drop their names, like Marco Rosa, yes, Renato Cocconi, some of those. And I would trust them blindly because they are artists. They see some things, they are so passionate, they have the handcrafting, the skills, everything. And I would trust them more than any evidence-based studies. The problem is they are gifted, they are 1 in a million clinicians. That's one thing. And sure, it's very much inspiring to listen to them, but still, it's anecdotal. And that is something, and I learned, I was in close contact. They accepted me as a friend, as a colleague. I was allowed to visit the offices, and I realized soon I could not copy. I have not the same talent in that direction. So then there's also a thing, evidence, and every medical, every academic discipline needs to produce evidence. And finally, maybe out of that evidence, guidelines. Otherwise, we are not ethical. And orthodontics missed it for a very, very long time. And so for the average orthodontist, we need that evidence, which is also made by average people at universities, maybe medium well-trained and so on. So we find something, this is a reliable scenario, technique for us, the average orthodontist. And we need both tracks. I always say anecdotal is inspiring, and we still need that, because without inspiration, it would be boring, and maybe tomorrow we would not keep going. Yes. But we need the evidence to guide us a bit, to have like a track we can justify in front of court, in front of insurances, where we see, okay, this is most probably reliable, predictable, and so on. So both is relevant.
In terms of a paper that came out recently by Julia Normova's group about hemisections, so this is something you clinically practice, and you had the idea and you had described it, yet the evidence didn't support its merits, right? So there's this kind of conflict.
I don't see it as a conflict. I see exactly this research is what is needed. I mean, we always feel we need research which proves our idea, which proves what we do in clinical practice, and then research would be worthless. We need critical research which maybe proves us wrong, or stimulates more studies, or stimulates a good discussion. And so I like that paper. I fully support that paper because, I mean, I did so many things where I personally was so much convinced that's a holy grail. That's it. We have to do it. Yes. We produce research ourselves, which has proven us wrong. And this is why we need research. And that happened in medicine so many times. when we talk about hearts, we took certain medications in the whole populations daily. It was shown 30 years later, don't do it, it does not help. And that's good. And the same is with orthodontics. And so the hemisection paper was very good. It stimulated a lot of discussion within our group. Yeah, and pushes future researching. But I mean, we should not do it the other way around. I'm a bit skeptical at the moment when research comes up, concluding at the end, Farooq, you don't need to do that. Hemisection is worthless, or you never need tats anymore because, they are not efficient and so on. Many people say, luckily I never stepped into it. I'm so relieved that I did not do it. I mean, this is also not good because research should be critical, but it should not be like an excuse not to be curious or try something or whatsoever.
Yeah. I hear that. We shouldn't close the door to a new avenue. We should explore it further. Björn, it's always a pleasure to come here and to come to your courses. And one of the key things that we see at your courses is your family. So I wanted to ask you, over the last 2 decades, we know famously your mum was a person who steered you into orthodontics, but what's been their role? How do you reflect in the last 20 years and the role of your parents in your career?
I mean, my parents, I grew up mostly as a single child. My brother is much younger than me, so they had for a very long time just me. I was hyperactive as a kid, mostly physically with sports, many fractured arms and a lot of these things. And my mom got crazy with it because she was so scared. And one strategy to calm me down was this kid has to use his brain as well. So learning Latin, learning Old Greek, and it was painful for me. And then when I told her I want to get a professional triathlete and all these things, she said, no, you can do that as a hobby. Do something which maybe feeds your family, get a dentist. And so she always said, okay, you are physically very active, hyperactive, and she always saw it as a great danger. So she said, some academic life, some structure, maybe that calms that boy down. And so they pushed me a bit, go at least to university, do something normal. Yeah? And then we lost contact for quite a while because I had my family, I have 4 kids, they had their own life. And interestingly, much later with delay, when I started the courses being done here, they said, maybe do you need some help at the courses? And once a week in the office, because my father, he managed for the church a lot of things in legal stuff, real estate, and my mother was running a hospital, being a nurse at first. And though they had some competence in hygiene, quality management, I said, okay, some help could be needed. Mm-hmm. And then it was a kind of restart of this family affair. Mm-hmm. And soon they realized I do orthodontics the same like I did sports. I entertain myself, invite the world, and they found it quite interesting and said, okay, boy, if you want to do that, we follow you, we help you, also to keep you somehow within some barriers. And yes, it was fantastic together.
Yeah. It's amazing. I mean, you've always had a role in your life, and it sounds like they've always been the guiding lights in your life. It's amazing to see, really it is. I want to come to your professional achievements. So, Editor-in-Chief of the Quintessence journal, Kieferorthopädie. You've been Editor-in-Chief for some time. What I'd like to know is, over the last decade, what kind of things have you seen change in terms of the manuscripts turning up on your desk? Are you more impressed as time goes on? Are things staying the same? Are we regressing in some direction? What's your reflections on?
Kieferorthopädie, which is direct English translation, is Orthodontics. It's a quite old journal in Germany. I think it's now 37 years. And it was almost dying because it mostly has clinical content like the JCO. So I took it over 14 years ago to keep it alive, because I strongly believe that we need also some clinic journals. It was always hard to get some articles because it's in German. We have a very small international section. So for everyone who is publishing, it was more or less worthless, because We have no PubMed, we have no Medline listing, we have no impact factors. So it was very hard to conduct content. This is why we later started our Facebook blog to open it to more people, to make it more interesting. And then we started to survive. So that's very special and a unique problem we had with this journal. In total, I see I'm doing a lot of things for the JCO, European Journal, American Journal. The biggest problem is we don't find reviewers anymore. I think you see the same thing with seminars and whatever. Though the will of colleagues, maybe not only the will, maybe the possibility to contribute as a reviewer, as an author, as whatever role in a journal, is getting less and less and less. I mean, when you send out an invitation for a review, you write to 10 people, 9 decline, and the one maybe does it next summer.
You're talking about me?
No. And then, finally, and this is also not good for the peer review process. It has to keep going somehow to get published. So finally, you always invite the same group of people, your friends, and they, please help me. We need that. And then it's again biased. So in the moment we are turning in circles. I strongly believe we need academic journals because orthodontic took a while to get academically at on university level recognized. It's not so long ago that in dentistry orthodontic got a separate discipline. And if we are not keeping up the journals and the high-level journals, it's getting dangerous for us on academic level, insurance level, legal level. And I would love that more people get involved and not saying, I don't have anything to do. Why should I do a review? I'm so busy. What's my benefit? The benefit at the end that maybe the next generation, our children or more, still can practice orthodontics as an academic discipline. So I would really like to see that more people get involved, not only a small group until they have the PhD and then they disappear. I feel it's like our duty at least. I do at times 10, 15 reviews per week. And I'm also tempted to push decline because it's so easy. And then I breathe in and okay, I do it because
it's almost like taking out the bins to your house. It's a formality; it has to be done.
Absolutely.
But if you don't do it, it creates problems. And I mirror what you say, and I think that is important. I want to touch on key opinion leaders. Now, it's becoming more and more of a divisive conversation to have, and I've got quotations here from Robert Kamersky from Canada, who's spoken about how key opinion leaders shouldn't really be given the stage. Kevin O'Brien's mentioned in his blog, as clinical scientists, do we need to listen to key opinion leaders? And on the other side, we've got key opinion leaders which do have a vocal voice in our profession. We've also got Vincenzo Danto, who was one of the authors of the consensus statement on aligners this year, published in Progress, where he described, well, it's impossible to conduct large studies on aligners without involving people key opinion leaders and accepts them as part of the current makeup of orthodontics. What's your thoughts on key opinion leaders? What should their role be in our field?
Actually never really recognized key opinion leaders until it got really, mostly I would say on social media, a big topic, a huge topic. I mean, I don't know if we could say, maybe I'm totally wrong, but McLaughlin, Bennett, Trevisi, at a certain point of time, they were kind of key opinion leaders. But at that point of time, none of us would call them like in a negative way or say, oh, John Bennett, you're a key opinion leader. At that time, I admired them and I thought they were really, and they still are, excellent orthodontists. But at a certain point over the last 20 years, key opinion leaders got a really negative touch, which is, I think, for some at least unfair. Because for some people to enter a certain network, they have to get a key opinion leader, also to get a certain budget or entrance to some technology or material. So I would really wish to have a more open discussion that people don't feel so bad about being a key opinion leader. On the other hand, we have many key opinion leaders. They are and were not good for our profession because they were on stage. Peter Greco always says the power of the podium.
Yes.
And the power of the podium should be used at least for something good, not only for your own benefit. Sure, at times we all have a certain percentage of our own benefit, fun, money, whatever, but not only for our own benefit. But I would not say key opinion leader per se is something super negative. Some just overpushed. And like the audience could also make their own judgment. Maybe that is not the case. Maybe I saw too naive in that regard. I sit in some lectures and after a few minutes, but I always thought the audience can make that judgment.
I think it should be, perhaps that should be the focus when key opinion leaders and non-key opinion leaders are speaking, is that the audience should be always sensitized to the fact that you should be treating any content with a degree of critical.
Sure, that might be a bit easier when it's a lecture.
Yes.
But when it's an article and the key opinion leaders and the message is more subtle and not very obvious, and then a student reads it with less experience and so on, that could be, or no, that is critical and unfair. Let's put it like that. But I don't like the hard tone some people have towards each other, especially on social media, because I think we should be kind of role models, and I don't know if this is really helpful. And especially if you are not in person with each other.
Quick fire round. What research are you the most proud of in your career?
European Journal multi-part RCT with the Swedish group out from Gothenburg, Farooq, and the Gothenburg group. We got the Benny Solar Award, and it was a research who really changed my career because I was absolutely in favor of bone-borne expanders, and it proved us wrong. And
In your career, what have been your top 3 clinical equipments or techniques that changed your clinical practice?
Brackets and wires, number 1. I would definitely keep it. Second one, electrosurgery. I love it. It started my fire for doing tiny surgical things. I really would not like to miss it. A third one, 3D printers, because all the other digital stuff did not motivate our team, the scanners, the software, zero motivation. But the first printer we have and the whole team, and we saw, wow, we can produce something. That was a fire starter for going into 3D orthodontics.
What 3 things, on the opposite side, what 3 things did you try in clinical practice that you regret? Apart from this podcast.
Technology-wise, most probably being triggered throughout the self-ligating stage to approach most cases non-extraction. I still suffered from that. We still have relapses. We still have a lot of that was a big problem. Then trusting TADs a bit too much. I really thought we can change the world. Though TADs on one hand, this is why I'm not included in the best tool in the top 3 tools, because it was for me more misleading. Clear-cut extraction cases I tried to bring into non-extraction with distalization or open binds. I thought TADs will solve everything, though I have mixed feelings about that. What else? Maybe a lot of wrong retainer material. I always thought there's a next best, better fixed retainer material, and it's like a journey back to myself. I started with the Saracen Penta 1 5-stranded gold-coated wire, and I ended with it again. Though, that was a stupid journey.
In terms of, so Oscar's with us, and it's going to create a nightmare for my editing, but Oscar's always with you. So tell me about Oscar. Like, where does he fit into you, and how do you see Oscar?
It's actually the dog of my second daughter, Mia.
Okay.
And she bought it when she got 18 as a kind of provocation, because she said, now I'm 18, I can do what I want. Oscar's older brother was an Australian Shepherd, and I always made fun and said, okay, pugs and such little dogs are not real dogs, so she bought it. And about 3-4 months later, she left home, and she said, now Oscar is yours. I cannot take care of him. And then I had this pug, and we got best friends. Okay. And now we do everything together. And I think pugs are the best dogs ever.
Björn, in 2006, you wanted to do a study at finite element modeling, and you couldn't find funding for it, so you paid for it yourself.
Yes.
And this kind of brings into a kind of a bigger idea that you've moved into a relatively rural area, yet you've somehow, in a sense, recreated university in terms of you have residents that come here, you're conducting high quality research, as well as a component of other types of technological innovation. My question to you is there too much red tape in our conventional institutions that actually prevent them from doing things like you did, and just taking the new ideas and actually trying them and finding scientific evidence? Is it actually now time for us to move that type of scientific endeavor into practices and offices, and less so in our institutions?
I think at least in private practice you're a bit quicker. Yeah, because I mean, if you want to do something, you can do it. You don't have to ask a committee. On the other hand, you need a certain budget. And I think what is also missing, or what is missing, you have not so many committees. So maybe your research has not the same quality. Though it took me a while to really understand and learn how to conduct better research. Luckily, I had a lot of friends who were very kind to say, Björn, you can do that, but actually it's worthless, or you have to improve. Though it has both sides of the medal. I did that because my great dream was to get an academic, and we got the kids really young, and then I had to earn some money. It was a bit difficult to enter university later. I never made it to be a full professor, even I had all the... So basically, I still believe research belongs to the university. I had to create my own a bit because it was my dream. But I see there are a lot of positive moves. When I see Farooq Fleming in Dublin, he's very open and he creates that spirit at university. And I hope that it goes in that direction, and that such people maybe open up to us and say, hey, join the boat, and we do that together.
Yeah, I would suggest that comparatively to professors and academics, you have very much exceeded their outputs in terms of your initiative and innovation. And I think looking at what you've achieved, university for me seems to be a state of mind of the individual. Like you are university. Farooq Fleming is university. And maybe it shouldn't be the walls that define that and limit it as well. And also its acceptance. Björn, you were always a person who was led by role models. So Björn Zachrison was the one who you mentioned the most, his excellent clinical prowess, academic prowess, lifestyle. And just like him, you have also inspired so many people in orthodontics. Tell me, what advice would you give to the next orthodontist who wants to be Björn Ludwig?
I think it comes back to our first question with like the clinicians, the 1 in a million clinician, or evidence-based science. I think a single person can be inspiring, to light up the spark, to say, wow, that lecture he gave or she gave, that was inspiring. I think I want to go into that direction with my career. Though it's a starting point. But then I would strongly recommend believe in yourself. Don't copy people. Listen to yourself. Okay, that was inspiring that way. I want to be like Farooq or Farooq or whatever. That's a good idea. But what could be my way in that direction? What could I deliver? I think role model should be not someone you copy blindly, because what people do not know who we are besides, let's say honestly, the show on stage, the show on social media. Maybe we are not completely good people. Yeah? So taking it as an inspiration, super. But soon, believe in yourself, listen. What values do I have? What competence do I have? What is my strengths and weakness? And cook your own soup. Yeah? Don't just copy it. And I think that's up to date. I mean, in our days, that's quite open. You know, when I went to university in the 90s, there was the professor, and the professor was right, and do it my way. And I think that's not good. We are all a bit different, and that's wonderful. That's beautiful.
I just want to ask you about Ortho 50, and you had some health challenges towards the end of last year and this year. I just wanted to ask you what's led onto this and your response to those health circumstances and led to Ortho 50 and what you've achieved over this year.
Yeah, I mean, it's quite emotional. I mean, when my health decline started, and we know now I have a genetic heart disease, which will limit my life most probably significantly. The first reaction, I was quite depressed. And after depression, I thought, okay, what could be my own strategy? And this is, I changed my lifestyle. I changed a lot of things. And one part of my lifestyle, I gave a lot of lecturing. I invested a huge amount of my time into that, which is actually not healthy, yeah? And which will lead to a much quicker decline. And though the quite logic decision was, I have to stop at least traveling. And accepting that idea finally made me extremely happy. And I'm coming from sports. In a sport, you start a career, and at a certain point, you end a career. And then why not doing that in orthodontics as well? Yeah? And so it makes a lot of sense health-wise, so I can recover better. It makes a lot of sense from where I'm coming from sport. I mean, I will continue working on that table, a bit slower in the office. I will follow all of you and maybe write a lot of papers, but with a total different lifestyle. And that's good. And there is such a wonderful new generation that gives opportunity. I mean, we are all bored at times to see every conference the same people. And maybe some more people should think, I had a good career, I had some good chances, let the other one speak. So for me, it's absolutely sound, and I'm stepping back super, super happy. And I'm actually also health-wise not depressed anymore, because I see a lot of chances. Yeah.
Björn, thank you so much for
Thank you.
I really appreciate it. I wanted to end with stealing a quote of yours, which is orthodontics grows when we are open, critical, and inspiring. And Björn, in this podcast and in your career, you have achieved all three of those things. So on behalf of the orthodontic community, I'd like to say thank you. You've challenged us, you've inspired us, you've changed us. You've taught us that it's not just about moving teeth, it's about moving our minds and our hearts. What this conversation denotes is the end of a chapter of many chapters in your life in terms of your public speaking. And in doing so, I need to congratulate you for your scientific commitments for the last 2 decades, for your intellectual prowess, for your honesty. But more than all three of those things is your commitment to sharing it with as many people as you possibly could. You have influenced orthodontics the last 2 decades. And even though you're not going to be active in terms of speaking, your legacy is going to continue for decades to come. So I've got a small gift for you I'd like to give.
Wow.
Is a signed shirt from this year's Tour de France winner. So, Tadej Pogačar, the full-time winner for the Tour de France, arguably one of the most achieved cyclists, and this year was his most prominent year in terms of achieving all those accolades. 2025 was also the year of Björn Ludwig, where he did his 50 hours of combining 2 decades worth of orthodontics commitment. So I think it's befitting for you to have something of this.
Thank you. Thanks a lot, Farooq.
Thank you so much. It's been a real honor, Björn.
Thank you.